Let's take a look at problem solving and decision making. Problem solving and decision making are interrelated. When you do not meet your objectives, you have a problem. The better you can develop plans that prevent problems before they occur, the fewer problems you'll have. A problem exists when other objectives are not being met. In other words, you have a problem whenever there's a difference between what is actually happening and what you want to have happen. Decision making is the process of selecting a course of action that will solve a problem. Decisions must be made when you're faced with a problem. When something isn't working, fix it. A first decision you face when confronted with a problem is whether to take corrective action. Some problems cannot be solved, and others do not deserve the time and effort it would take to solve them. However, your job requires you to achieve organizational objectives. Therefore, you have to attempt to solve most problems. This is what managers and employees get paid to do. All managers perform the same 4 functions of management. While performing these functions, you must make decisions and solve problems. When planning, you make decisions about objectives. When organizing, you make decisions about what to delegate and how to coordinate the department resources. To lead, you must decide how to influence employees. To control, you must monitor progress and select methods to ensure that objectives are met. How do you approach decisions? A reflective decision maker likes to make quick decisions without taking the time to get the information that may be needed and without considering many alternatives. On the positive side, reflexive decision makers are decisive. They don't procrastinate. On the negative side, making quick decisions can lead to waste and duplication. A reflective decision maker likes to take plenty of time to make decisions, gathering considerable information and analyzing several alternatives. On the positive side, the reflective type does not make hasty decisions. On the negative side, the reflective type may procrastinate, lose opportunities, and waste valuable time and other resources. In the fast-changing environment, making better decisions faster is important to success. Consistent decision makers tend to make decisions without either rushing or wasting time. They know when they have enough information and alternatives to make a sound decision. Consistent decision makers tend to have the best record for making good decisions. They tend to follow the steps in the decision-making model. However, the consistent decision style can also result in failure. When making decisions, we want to avoid using bad intuition. Through years of research to determine how the most successful managers make decisions, a decision-making model has been developed. The question isn't whether the model works, it's whether you'll use the model when it's appropriate. Following the steps in the model will not guarantee that you make a good decision every time. However, using models will increase your chances of success in problem solving and decision making. The decision-making model is a 6-step process for arriving at a decision and involves classifying and defining the problem, setting objectives and criteria, generating creative and innovative alternatives, analyzing and selecting the most feasible, planning and implementing the decision, and controlling the decision. Notice that the steps do not simply go from start to finish. At any step, you may have to return to a prior step to make changes. Although it may seem surprising, it's true. Half the decisions made by managers fail to solve the problems they're aimed at. Outcomes fall short of their objectives. The first step in the decision-making model is to classify and define the problem, which may sometimes take the form of an opportunity. Problems may be classified in terms of structure, conditions, and the type of decision. For program decisions, those that arise in recurring or routine situations, you should use decision rules or organizational policies and procedures to make the decision, so it's not necessary to follow all the steps of the model. For non-program decisions, significant decisions that arise in non-reoccurring and non-routine situations, you should use the decision-making model. The 3 decision-making conditions are certainty, risk, and uncertainty. When making a decision under the conditions of certainty, you know the outcome of each alternative in advance, so you can usually take quick action. Under conditions of uncertainty, which include lack of information or knowledge, making the outcome of each alternative unpredictable, you cannot accurately determine all of the possibilities. Although risk and uncertainty cannot be eliminated, they can be reduced. When a problem exists, you must decide who should participate in solving it. Today's employees want to have a voice in decisions. The trend is using teams, especially when the decision affects them directly, and a group can often solve problems better than individuals. Thus, the major question is not whether managers should allow employees to participate, but when and how this should be done. When making decisions, you should use the management style appropriate to the situation. For now, realize that even though the trend is towards group decision making, it does have disadvantages, and it's not always better than individual decision making. The key to success when using groups is to maximize the advantages while minimizing the disadvantages. In general, for a significant, non-programmed decision with high risk or uncertainty, use group decision making. For a programmed decision with low risk or certainty, use individual decision making. Generate possible alternatives for solving the problem or exploiting the opportunity. Usually, many possible ways exist to solve a problem. Without alternatives from multiple sources, you don't have to make a decision, and you should write your alternatives down. Visual people like decision trees. With program decision making, the alternative is usually determined by policy. However, with non-programmed decision making, time, effort, and resources are needed to come up with new, creative, and innovative ideas. Creativity is a way of thinking that generates new ideas. Creativity is a driver that leads to innovation. Innovation is the implementation of a new idea. Two important types of innovation are product innovation and process innovation. Creativity is needed, but essentially useless if not implemented. Unfortunately, many employees come up with great ideas, but managers fail to implement them. There are barriers to changing and trying something different, but success only comes from taking some risks and innovating. The three stages in the creative process are preparation, incubation, and illumination, and evaluation. Brainstorming is the process of suggesting many possible alternatives without evaluation. When brainstorming ideas, follow these guidelines. Include diverse people. Develop as many solutions as possible. Make wild, extreme suggestions, and build on suggestions made by others. Synetics is the process of generating novel alternatives through role-playing and fantasizing. Synetics focuses on generating novel ideas rather than a large quantity of ideas. Nominal grouping is the process of generating and evaluating alternatives using a structured voting method. Consensus mapping is the process of developing group agreement on a solution to a problem. If a consensus can't be reached, the group does not make a decision. The Delphi technique involves using a series of confidential questionnaires to refine a solution. Responses on the first questionnaire are analyzed and resubmitted to participants on a second. A decision tree is a diagram of alternatives. The diagram gives a visual picture of the alternatives, which makes it easier for some people to analyze them. Decision trees are also especially helpful when you face information overload. Think forward and try to predict the possible outcome of each action for your stakeholders when problem solving. Don't forget to consider the ethics of each alternative. Be sure to compare alternatives to the objectives and criteria set in step 2 of the process. In addition, compare each alternative to the others. This section presents qualitative and quantitative approaches that are commonly used to analyze alternative solutions. Quantitative techniques, big data and cost-benefit analysis, and intuition. One of the 5 approaches is management science, which uses math to aid in problem solving and decision making. Quantitative techniques professionalize decision making by using math in the objective analysis of alternative solutions. Break-even analysis allows calculation of volume of sales or revenue that will result in a profit. The break-even point occurs at the level at which no profit or loss results. Capital budgeting is used for make or buy or fix or replace, upgrade, replacement, or rent, lease, or buy decisions. Another approach computes the average rate of return. It's appropriate when the yearly returns differ. Queuing theory focuses on a waiting time. An organization can have any number of employees providing service to customers. Probability theory enables the user to make decisions that take into consideration conditions of risk. You assign a probability of success or failure to each alternative. Then you calculate the expected value. Big data is the analysis of large amounts of quantified facts to aid in maximizing decision making. The quantitative analysis is commonly done through algorithms and their related sophisticated software. Decision making is not simple trust data versus gut decisions. Quantitative techniques, including big data, are objective, mathematical approaches to comparing alternatives. When making decisions, it's helpful to use a cost-benefit analysis. It compares the cost of implementing a decision to the benefits received. With pros and cons analysis, you identify the advantages and disadvantages of any alternative. The final two steps in the decision-making model involve planning and implementing. Unfortunately, decisions will be made, but not implemented. A major cause is not developing a detailed plan to achieve the objective of the decision. After making a decision, you develop a plan of action with a schedule for implementation. The plan needs to be clearly communicated so that everyone can do his or her part to achieve the objective. After a decision has been made and plans developed, the plans must be implemented. You need to take action to achieve your objective. In implementing a decision, it's likely to be necessary to delegate assignments to others. Control methods should be developed while planning to measure and monitor the decision. Checkpoints should be established to determine whether the chosen alternative is solving the problem. When we will not admit that we made a bad decision, we're in the process known as escalation of commitment. We tend to maintain commitment to losing course of action, even in the face of bad news.